Big LEZ'S League, an all rugby league experience. Hey legends, welcome back to another episode of Big LEZ'S League, an all rugby league experience. Welcome to another episode of The Drawing Board, your SuperCoach and NRL Fantasy show. Just a quick one before we get underway. There is no news podcast this week. There's only really one update that we haven't covered on the podcast already, and that's Regan Kimball-Gillard. We'll talk about that on the podcast still. It'll just be an audio podcast. And if you want to go back and listen to that one, you'll have to go and listen to it on our Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That's where it'll be. So make sure you subscribe to those. They'll be down below. In the description. Also down there, you'll find the Instagram. Make sure you go ahead and give that a follow as well. But let's get stuck in straight away to our shining lights going into round 25 or round 24's shining lights, as you could call it, for both SuperCoach and NRL Fantasy. Our SuperCoach shining light, it was James Tedesco, 125 points. What a performance for him for the Roosters as well. A big part of that wing alongside Sam Walker. And also Dom Young, who had an absolute blinder as well, looking a lot better, defensively a lot stronger. But James Tedesco, his combination with Brandon Smith is improving as well. He runs some great lines, obviously didn't overplay his hand either. A big criticism of James Tedesco has been he does like to overplay his hand a little bit and go for a bit of a low percentage play on some occasions as well. He was nice, had a good temperament about him. I thought that he did a very good job for the Roosters. Still got heavily involved and looked good with the ball in hand, but just didn't overplay his hand or go for the low percentage play, which I think contributed to his score here, but also contributed to the win for the Roosters as well in general. Our shining light, we already mentioned him here, but our shining light is also a Rooster for fantasy. It is Dominic Young, 86 points. We've been sort of waiting for his score to go back up. We've been on the cusp of trading him a few times, but I do think going into the back end of the year, as we head into finals, he's going to have some really big games, and I think that he's going to really, up his discipline, and that comes through his defense, which was outstanding. Only had the one missed tackle there on the wing, but also taking his attack to another level as well. I think that he's going to be outstanding. 86 points, loving it, contributed to our score as well. Let's get straight into our final scores for both SuperCoach and NRL Fantasy over the weekend. 726 for fantasy, Kale Iro and Tom Hazelton being out. That really hurt us, for our final score, unfortunately. Also forgot to bring in Sam Hughes back into the rotation as well for Tom Hazelton. So a bit doing there. There was still a little bit of beauty, though, in the bed shit, as you could call it, with Dom Young having his big performance. Obviously, Jerome Hughes was outstanding as well yet again this week. He had some really good scores in and amongst the bed shit there. For NRL Fantasy, but look, a monstrous amount of trades, and it's the max amount of trades you can do. So I have literally crammed a bunch of trades that is going to really up this side to another ante. As for SuperCoach, again, the Iro being out hurt us. That was obviously last minute. I was busy throughout the weekend. I didn't have time to make that change. But Iro out, it definitely hurt us. Still a decent score, though. Obviously, the 1,089, just shy of 1,100. The only reason I didn't get to 1,100 was because Kale was eventually ruled out of this game. Definitely improvement for the near future as well, and that is going to come through the trades that we've made going into this week as well. Some huge trades for our side. We've pretty much maxed out both teams, Fantasy and SuperCoach. For SuperCoach, we only have 3 trades left. We went from 9, obviously traded in James Tedesco. At some stage last week, if you were on the Instagram, you would have seen the little skit that I do. And that's what I'm going to do for the late mail now. I'm just going to post little memes like that. But yeah, look, if you were following the Instagram, you would have seen the late mail, obviously, that we traded in James Tedesco before kickoff last week for Tamale Martin. Going into this week, we made 3 trades. We've got 3 trades left. Our first trade was Jack de Belin coming out of the side for Eli Katoa. Beautiful trade there. Great value. Jack de Belin's score hasn't been the best for SuperCoach over the past few weeks, and that needed to make a change there. So de Belin comes out. Eli Katoa comes in. As for the next one, Nathan Cleary with that shoulder injury, he's going to be out for the rest of the regular season. He comes out. We do bring in Daly Cherry Evans. So Cherry Evans comes into our side. For SuperCoach. And then our third trade here, it is Blaze Talangi out. I just don't think he's going to have any big scores, but I also found a massive opportunity to get a much better SuperCoach player. Not a better player in general, although he is a better player in general, but a better SuperCoach player that is going to get an even higher score than what I think Blaise Salungi's SuperCoach ceiling is at the moment, and that is Joey Manu. Bringing in Joseph Manu into our side this week. So Jack DeBellin, Nathan Cleary, and Blaise Salungi out. I'm bringing in Eli Katoa, DCE, and Joseph Manu. What about this lot of trades? Absolutely unbelievable. As for NRL Fantasy, we have 5 trades left, which is going to be nice going into the last 3 games of the competition. And you'll have to zoom in a little bit on the post on Instagram to have a look at this. Obviously, it's up here on the YouTube. But we traded out Nathan Cleary. We brought in Jaden Campbell. We traded out Cody Walker. We brought in Matt Burton. We traded out Tommy Hazelton. We brought in Isaiah Yeo. And then we traded out Tamale Martin for fantasy as well and brought in Alec McDonald. That was pretty much the only guy with a decent enough average that I could trade in. So, again, outs, Nathan Cleary, Cody Walker, Tom Hazelton, and Tamale Martin. Jaden Campbell comes in alongside Matt Burton, Isaiah Yeo, and Alec McDonald. Again, beautiful trades, crisp trades. And look, for fantasy, I'm looking to get around the 900 scoreline with this team now. As for SuperCoach, I'm looking to get around the 1,200 sort of scoreline. That's what I want for SuperCoach this week, between 1,100 and 1,200. Looking at our SuperCoach side going into this week, we have Tedesco at fullback and captain as well. He's now the new captain of our side. Casey McLean and Jacob Kiraz on the wings. Manu and Kale Ito in the centres, pending obviously a bit of a change there. We'll talk about that in a second. In the 5'8" role. See, I had a bit of a brain snap then. In the 5'8" role, we've got Matt Burton. He's our vice captain. Halfback is Jerome Hughes. Adam Fanua-Blake and Terrell May line up up front, and Terrell May might be a bit of a trade going into the next few weeks if he does play some shorter minutes in the last 3 games of the season off the bench. Terrell May and Adam Fanua-Blake up front with Harry Grant at 9. Eli Katoa and Angus Crichton back row. Josh Curran is at 13. And then we've got Tom Trbojevic, DCE, Jaden Campbell, and Tallis Duncan as our bench. A beautiful look inside going into this week. Now, a pending change can be in our back line. We are pending to wait for Kale Ito to see if he is named going into this week. If he isn't, Jamin Salmon will come in and take his centre spot. That is pretty much going to be the only change if we make any to this SuperCoach side, unless obviously there's a few injuries and some spanners that get thrown into the works. As for NRL Fantasy, in terms of our changes this week, we have got KO Weeks at fullback, Dom Young and Jack Bostock on the wings, Kiraz and Jack Whiten in the centres, Matt Burton, vice captain at number 6. We've got Jerome Hughes, captain at halfback. We've got Paddy Carrigan and Isaiah Yeo up front. Reid Marnie at 9. Isaiah Yeo might become our captain. That might be a little bit of late mail that you get on the Instagram. Jack Howarth and Hamole Olakawatu back row. Maxi Plath, Max Psycho Plath there in the number 13. Casey McLean, Jaden Campbell, Alec McDonald, and Jacob Gagai is our current bench. Awaiting team lists to potentially bring back in Josh Curran and Kale Ito. So those will be some late changes that you might see. They'll both come onto the bench for Alec McDonald and Jacob Gagai. So we have as much of a stacked side as possible. But as I said, awaiting team list to see if both of those guys come back into the side going into round 25. But there you go. That is your SuperCoach and NRL Fantasy preview for round 25. Make sure if you haven't already to subscribe to the YouTube, become a part of the big LEZ'S League community. Make sure you go follow the Instagram. You follow the Spotify and Apple Podcasts to get more exclusive content just like this. And we'll see you guys in the next one.